What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Welcome back to the Respawn, where I answer your questions. Today we're going to be talking about what hero should be removed, what class the next hero should be, and what exactly are troll pick characters. If this is the first time you've watched a Respawn video, here's how it works. Often I get asked a lot of questions or get suggestions about different topics that just aren't big enough for an entire video. So I grab a bunch of those and I put them all together and I try to answer them all at once in a Respawn video. So that's what it is. So if you have a question, a comment, or a suggestion, leave it down below and maybe you'll get picked for the next one. First question, do you think that heroes that don't require aim are bad for the game or not? Short answer is no, because it allows for a lot more interesting character types like Reinhardt and Mercy. Slightly longer answer is that no character in the game requires zero aiming. Even Reinhardt needs to look in the general direction of his opponent and try to swing the hammer at them. So, I mean, that's an extremely basic level of aiming, don't get me wrong. But the idea that some characters require no aim is just kind of a myth. And also another great misunderstanding of how certain character attacks work, for example, Winston and Moira, is that there's some kind of a soft lock-on ability. It doesn't exist in Overwatch. I actually am going to be making a full video explaining all of that kind of soft lock-on stuff and how it actually works and what the mechanics are versus what the visual feedback is. It was really quite interesting when I was testing all of that stuff, so if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you can come back and see that, because it was really interesting and fascinating to see how exactly all that works. Next one's a two-parter. Do you think level 25 is a really bad level to start competitive matches? Yes, I think 25 is too low for new players to really understand enough about the game in order to be in the competitive setting. So I would raise it to a minimum of 50. More likely, I would change it up to 100 if I could. Also, this would have the added benefit of making smurfing accounts a lot more difficult, or at least a lot more frustrating and time-consuming in order to make. Second part, do you think there are silvers, golds, or even bronze that are actually pretty good, but they are just at the incorrect rank? Well, it's true that there is going to be a lot of people getting dragged down because of throwers, leavers, and trolls, and the further down in rank you go, the more common those types of problems are. But the main difference between lower bracket players and upper bracket players is mechanical skill. How good is your accuracy? How good is your game sense? All that sort of stuff. So comparing someone that's in gold to, let's say, master, no, not even close. There's definitely a very noticeable difference in how they're going to be playing. What is your favorite and least favorite types of maps? So favorite would be the payload and hybrid maps, and least favorite would be the 2 capture point maps like Hanamura and Temple of Anubis. There's just way too much stalling and it's just annoying to deal with. Now, as far as the payload maps go, I think there's a lot more that Blizzard could be doing with them, because if you look at Team Fortress 2, there's a lot more variety to the different payload type maps. You have like the kind of racing type maps where both teams have a payload and you have to get it to your spot. You have vertical payload maps. You have kind of tug of war payload maps. I mean, there's lots of cool stuff that you can do with those maps, and Blizzard just really hasn't even scratched the surface with it. Next two questions kind of go together. First part, if you had to remove a hero, who would it be? I wouldn't remove any. The game needs more characters, not less. The more characters you have, the more opportunities you have for counters and synergies and team comps and all that sort of stuff. And contrary to what people would believe, more characters is actually easier to balance than less characters, because there is more possibility for those counters. So any one hero can't be too powerful when you have a bunch of stuff that could potentially counter it. Next one is, why are some heroes still hated and called troll picks, for example Mei, by other players, even if they're useful? So the main troll pick characters are going to be Bastion, Torbjorn, Mei, Symmetra, and Hanzo. But Hanzo isn't actually a troll pick anymore. We'll come back to that in a second. The idea of a troll pick character is there are certain heroes in the game that are very niche and they are objectively weaker than the rest of the hero lineup in the vast majority of situations. And like I said for the previous question, I don't think any one character should be that specialized, that niche. They should be viable in most of the situations, not only some of them. And because these characters, like Mei, Bastion, Torbjorn, Symmetra, what have you, because they're so weak in the majority of situations, they're considered to just be a troll pick. Now, using Mei as defense on Hanamura for the first capture point can actually be really quite powerful. But if you're using Mei in a lot of other situations, it's just going to be bad. And that's why it's considered a troll pick. Now, the interesting thing is Hanzo, for a very long time, has been considered a troll pick for the simple fact that he just wasn't very good. He had an amazing ability in Scattershot that could just completely eliminate one person instantly, but the rest of his kit was pretty garbage, and his arrows were really slow. The character was not very good at all. But now that he's been changed, now Hanzo is one of, if not the best, medium to long range DPS in the entire game. So no longer is he a troll pick, now he's actually a viable character. And with the Symmetra rework, from what they've been telling us, the Symmetra rework should actually make her pretty good. Now, I don't know if Symmetra is going to be in the meta even after the rework, but the changes should make her viable in a lot more situations than only the very niche pick that she is now. So that is why that people continue to call things troll picks, because they are objectively weaker than the other heroes in most of the situations. The truth is, some part of that troll pick mentality is always going to be there, and it might never go away for some of these characters. But the best thing that Blizzard can do is to change them, to buff them, to rebalance them, to rework them in whatever means they need to in order to make the character actually viable. And speaking of more characters, what do you want the next hero to be like? Support, healer, tank, or DPS? Well, we already have a lot of DPS characters in the game. If you look at the entire offense and the defense categories combined, their main goal for most of those characters is to simply deal damage, and that's really the only thing they do. Some of the characters, like Sombra and Mei, do have extra utility aspect to them, but the main goal of all of those characters is to deal damage. And then we have a couple of support, some healers that we just got recently, and I think that's not enough, but for right now, I don't think we need to add another healer. I think what we need to add is another tank, and when I say tank, I mean an actual tank. Like, their primary role is to prevent damage to their teammates. Because if you look at the tank role right now, it's pretty much split in two. You have Reinhardt, Orisa, and then Winston, whose primary responsibility is to prevent damage to their teammates. And then you have D.Va, Zarya, and Roadhog, who do have some defensive capabilities, some protective capabilities, at least a little bit, but their primary goal is to deal damage. So they're just really high health DPS, or a better role would be called Bruiser. Sometimes they're referred to as off tanks. But I think what we're lacking right now is those fully protective tank category type characters, like a Reinhardt or an Orisa, or even a Winston to some degree. So I think that is what we need, more protective, more defensive type characters. Next question is a really big one. Basically, it boils down to, do you think that they should add more interesting stuff like portal type effects into the maps? I don't think they're going to ever add anything like that, because really it just would be way too difficult to balance. There's a reason why there's only one jump pad in the Oasis maps, right? There's a reason why the low grav section of the Horizon map is just a very small section that's kind of off to the side that people don't even need to go to. These kind of gimmicky things in the game are extremely difficult to balance because of the way that the game is made. Because there's a difference in the character types, you have the Reinhardts and the Winstons and the Widowmakers and the Reaper and all that sort of, like, there's so many varieties in the different character types that using these kind of gimmicky things is extremely difficult to balance. I don't think they would do it for anything more than just a gimmick. Do you think Reinhardt needs a change? Yes, absolutely. A lot of the other characters have been getting balance changes and updates and buffs, and Reinhardt really hasn't been touched, and so he's just kind of lagging behind. On top of that, the general ultimate interruption change that they made a little while ago hurt Reinhardt a lot more than most of the other characters, and he really didn't get anything to help kind of compensate for that. So on top of that, he has no CC resistance, which is he's able to just get kind of bopped all around and thrown around like a rag doll, and it makes it difficult for him to do his job as that anchor tank when it's so very easy for the enemy team to just move him to the side. So yes, I think Reinhardt needs a change. I went over a whole bunch of really interesting and cool ideas in a previous video. I'll put a link to that on screen and down below so you can go and check it out when you're done watching this one. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Respawn Guys. If you have any questions, ideas, suggestions, let me know down below, and maybe you'll get picked for the next one. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out my Discord server. Follow me on Twitch and Twitter. The links for that stuff are down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault. Also, special thanks to all my Patreon supporters for helping to make this all possible. If you'd like to see what kind of cool rewards you can get for supporting the channel, check the links on screen and down below.